I'm a born and bred Torontonian. I've lived in Canada for most of my life, with a couple minor exceptions of some travel I've done. On my mom's side is Sri Lankan Tamil, and my dad's side is the Italian side. Growing up in Toronto with a Sri Lankan mom and an Italian dad, you're kind of used to diversity left, right, and center, essentially. There was just a lot of variety in my life. I was a flower girl at a gay wedding when I was 8. There was just this level of very heavy multiculturalism in my day-to-day life, with maybe the exception of the neighborhood I lived in, an area called Leaside in Toronto, which is a very white, wealthy neighborhood. Within the context growing up, my day-to-day, I was one of a handful of people of color in my whole school. So even though I'm half Italian, as a kid, I was a bit darker skinned, spending lots of time in the sun. Um, and within the context of that very white neighborhood, I was clearly the weird brown poor kid. That was definitely really influential in my growing up experience. Interestingly, as I got older, that wasn't always the case. In growing up, there were a lot of challenges. It wasn't always necessarily race based. Some of that stuff I experienced at school, my family just didn't have a lot of money. We lived in the apartment above the Domino's Pizza where I started working at 14 or 15. A lot of really hardcore stuff happened when I was a kid. I experienced child sexual abuse from my stepdad, from my actual dad. He was in and out of jail. There was some domestic violence stuff going on. He eventually became homeless. So a lot of really heavy stuff going on in my life well before the age of 10. At the same time, I was coping with a lot of that by getting really involved in school. I was a super keener, straight A student involved in a million clubs and teams. I think that spirit eventually led me into engineering because it was also the influence of my mom encouraging me, classic brown parents, take the maths, take the sciences. I eventually fell into it through grade 12, decided to apply, and the rest is history.